And he was just like staring at this thing. He was young, but he said just the size of it, the length of the jaws. And Fogg called it a critter. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a thing. It was a critter, but
they claim that our eyes will just be created a slightly different from what they are. We talk these shit names are not normal.
Welcome to Strange Familiars. Allison,
Yes.
how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing okay. I feel like we've turned a corner towards spring.
It's warmed up a little bit.
Yeah, we got some sun and
Even I was struggling with like 14-degree nights because I like to walk at night. That's usually when I do my walking, and that's when you get much below 20. It gets
you
pretty
really
rough.
shouldn't even be out in the 20s, I don't think.
Yeah, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes.
I don't think that's true either.
Got a mixed bag on tonight's show. I'm going to be talking with Lenny later on. She's got stories of this fireman, not a fireman.
A fireman.
I-
A man made of
A
fire.
man composed of fire, tiny witches, and more.
Oh, I remember listening to this one when you interviewed her. I love the tiny witches.
And before that, we'll be talking with two people who recorded interviews and then allowed me to publish them.
Like they interviewed each other?
No. They interviewed people and recorded it. And they're
Oh.
allowing me to use their recordings.
Oh, that's nice. That's a change of pace.
Yeah, and it's Bigfoot, Dogman kind of stuff. So we'll get to those in a second. Before we get to that, I want to thank our patrons. Thank you so much, patrons. We could not do Strange Familiars without your help. If you like Strange Familiars and you'd like to help us make the podcast and get extra content besides, you can become a patron at Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. All of our patrons get commercial-free versions of the weekly shows, plus extra shows monthly. We do at least one. Sometimes we do more exclusive episodes every month for our patrons. And if you're a patron on Patreon, you get to take part in an ongoing paranormal experiment. We did the premiere episode as the patron episode this month. We are currently in the process, we being the patrons and us, of choosing a name for this experiment or for an element of this experiment. I don't want to give too much away because it's really for the patrons. Hopefully next month we will get the experiment rolling and get into it in a consistent basis. And the patrons get to take part in that. They get the updates as they happen and behind the scene information and so forth. Just another advantage of becoming a patron on Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. We also have a program on Apple Podcasts. There it is called Patron of the Strange. And our Apple Podcast subscribers also get the commercial-free shows weekly and the extra shows monthly. And I want to thank you, patrons, no matter where you're signed up. That is a huge help. Thank you so much. First up, we're going to talk to Jared. And Jared interviewed his father, Gary. These are stories from Indiana, and he said it's about an hour south of the Witch Diggers property. So he talked to his father about Bigfoot and what may be, I don't know if we got a Dogman thing in here, Daniel Cocker Spaniel, werewolf, whatever you want to call that creature. Something they said that looked like a giant coyote as well at another time. So very interesting stories. I want to thank Jared for letting me play these, and of course his father Gary for sharing the stories. And I want to mention that I love this kind of stuff. I love these kind of family stories. And if anyone out there is like documenting these kinds of strange stories in their family, ghost stories, it doesn't have to be Bigfoot, it could be ghost stories or UFO, any of that, maybe sometimes family members don't have access to podcasts or they're more comfortable talking to family members, If you want to record these stories, I absolutely love them, and I'd love to share them on the podcast like we're sharing Jared's here. Once again, thanks to Jared for this. And let's go ahead and listen to Jared interview his father, Gary.
Cool. All right. Tell me about Mary Lee's place.
Well, the Brody farm behind the Clark State Forest up there, my Uncle Carl, he always farmed it when he was a boy with his father. And if you looked at the homestead itself, there was a game trail, and I mean a big one, as in the buffalo trace. The buffalo would migrate, and their front soybean field would run up into the Clark State Forestry, and that was part of a game trail. Hundreds and hundreds of buffalo. I mean, it was a literal road. When the crop wasn't growing, you could see the road was there, but it was a game trail. And my aunt and uncle, if you ask him about the Bigfoot, he would just smile, and he wouldn't say a whole lot. But it was a twinkle in his eye that he knew something he wasn't saying. Mary Lee would admit that she could hear screams at nighttime. And with them being right on that game trail, they both always agreed that the Bigfoot migrate throughout the country. And I think that's probably true too. Just seasonally, with the food supply and the weather, it would make sense that they would be migratory, a large animal like that, and living on the game trail. And at nighttime, sometimes there would be thumps on the house wall. And the dogs would bark and be under the porch. The dogs would hide whenever that would happen. And then later on, we heard that Bigfoot always had a thing about dogs. They go for the dogs first. There were thumps on the house and the howling of the night, the screams that couldn't be identified. So they were big Bigfoot believers. I never saw one up there. But if you ask my Uncle Carl about UFOs, had he ever seen a UFO? And the head would go down and there'd be a big grin and them eyes would twinkle and he'd get a little half nod, yeah, I've seen one, but he wouldn't tell you about it. And country boys pretty close to the vest, they didn't talk a whole lot about me.
Yeah.
And it's scared ridicule, I'm sure, too. But my cousin Bob out at Otisco, the farm out there, he told me that they had something running around out there when I asked him to go deer hunting. He said, yeah, but be careful. He said, we got something running around out here and nobody knows what it is. And we hit one with a truck one day and still nobody knows what it was. Marked up the truck pretty good, but critter got up, kept on going, and nobody knows what it was.
Did he say what it looked like or anything?
Said it looked like a great big mangy coyote, but it was about 3 times the size of a coyote. It didn't make any sense. It was too big to be a coyote. They didn't know what it was. And it happened so fast, but the truck was damaged. And then the neighbors started saying they were hearing wild screaming at nighttime. Well, I went on a deer hunted out there, and I had my shotgun with me, and I was pretty familiar with the place, and I got back to one of the turnoffs about 40 acres into the homestead where the crops were. I got back to the timber where the hogs used to run, and something let loose back in them woods, and I just froze, and my ass just raised up. Everything on me just tensed up. I'd never heard anything like that. And it made me think about some kind of tiger or cat or something, but it wasn't that either. But it had to be big. And you could feel the sound. When the sound was made, you could actually feel it in your body too.
What do you mean? Like
the hair on the back of your neck and the tingling you get all over it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I think some animals like tigers, I've heard that tigers have some kind of a sonic effect on people. They can make a sound that it's not perceptible to the ear, but it makes you a little nauseous, might make you a little scared and sick, whatever. I think I had that experience out there in the woods that day. But I had shotgun slugs in that shotgun because I was deer hunting. And after that, I got to thinking it wasn't real light yet, and the woods was real close together, so I shucked them slugs out of the gun and just left them laying on the ground while I was sliding buckshot that I had thought to bring just in case. So I went from slugs to buckshot, and I worked my way back in there, and I got the hell out of there. I don't know what it was. I never heard anything like that. And I never had anything in the woods affect me that way, too. The sound made you fold up your tent, get ready to go. Just the sound of it.
You said something about the hogs running out there. Are you sure it wasn't like a pig squeal? Or they kind of yell, right?
No, they can make all kinds of noise, and I've had them go out to me. That's another story, too, when I was a kid.
This next audio is from Chadwick, and this is a little different because it's kind of like Candid audio. I think he was taking a video. The people knew they were being recorded. It's not like a surprise thing, but it wasn't specifically an interview. Chadwick was on a few episodes back, and he's been on before. He's the one who found the three-toed footprints out there on the Chestnut Ridge in western PA. And he was telling us about this property that he's been going to, and these people have all these strange encounters with like weird orbs appearing on trail cams and Bigfoot type stuff, and again, Dogman, werewolf, Daniel Cocker Spaniel, whatever you want to call those things, encounters with things like that as well. And he recorded the property owners talking about this and sent me a segment. Now, again, this is very candid audio. They were very relaxed when they were talking about this. I think because of that, there are more bleeps in this segment than I've had in any podcast ever, just in this one short segment.
Oh, you know, I was listening to you editing earlier tonight, and I thought you had taken a break because, like, normally, like, there isn't a lot of swearing, and so I was like, oh, you must be just watching something else and taking a break from it. No, that's what you're.
Yeah. So
are we allowed to do that? Is that like a new thing that we can just like shout expletives?
No, I bleep it out.
I know, but
we're
am I allowed to do that?
Look, we are allowed to, but you then lose the potential of the podcast going to certain places. I try to keep it family friendly. A, I want people to be able to listen to it with their kids if they want to, having been a parent myself. B, when you start having explicit, you start limiting your audience.
That's true.
I don't necessarily want to do that. And C, I personally think bleeps are hilarious. I've always thought they were funny, even when I was a little kid, when they would bleep stuff. When they started, remember, like they bleeped them when we were real young. And then later on, they would replace them with another word.
Oh, yeah, because like I didn't have cable, so like they would play like a lot of TV shows.
Or movies.
I remember watching The Breakfast Club, and at one point he shouts, "Fail you!"
Yeah. And I was always like, that's dumb. Like, it was funnier to me when they bleeped.
Yeah.
It was like much funnier to me when they bleeped it. So that's why I bleep things on the show. It was like, it's for my personal entertainment pretty much.
Yeah.
Also, again, keep it family friendly and so forth. So yeah, this one 6-7 minute segment, whatever it is, has more bleeps. Even when I talk to Clint, there's more bleeps in this. But these people were just relaxed. They didn't know it was going to be for the show. So I'm not.
Usually just when I swear, you just clip it out.
Yeah.
It seemed like I didn't swear.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I can clip it out, I will. But sometimes in the flow of the
you do,
conversation, you can't. This isn't their problem. It's just, it just happened to be that way. So thanks to Chadwick for this audio. Thanks to the owners of that property. And hopefully we will be getting out to that property. It's been so frigid. I think there's some camping involved when we go out there. So Chadwick says we still have the invitation. We just need to get out there. And it's been too cold even for winter camping.
That's a Chad only kind of thing, this kind of camping.
Once it gets to a certain point, even Chad
Wisely.
Yeah, will not once it gets below a certain.
So you can only add so many layers of wool.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go ahead and hear Chadwick and the property owners discuss some of the things they've encountered and have been seeing there.
He didn't know what it was, but he just said it was a critter, and he killed it. At the base of Ferguson. Upper part of Ferguson. Schoolhouse is where the spring starts at.
Yeah. My dad's house was right below Jimmy's, and they tore it down.
What the?
where Jimmy Hall built out?
Yeah, yeah.
Sean said that he remembered being a kid. How old was Sean when he was left there, hon? So
Well, it was before Tori was born, so it was before 72.
I'd say he was like 8 years old or so. 8 years old, you're a curious kid. You know what I mean? He said his little boy gets behind the shanty where they like typically butcher deer at. He said he goes around the thing. He's like, it's the craziest looking foot. Like it's already rotted off. And it's pretty much your old man was beating feet out of there not too long after that. But Sean goes around and he was just like staring at this thing. He was like, dude. He said this. He was young, but he said just the size of it, a length of the jaws, and the fog called it a critter. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a thing. It was a critter, but he ought-6 that one.
Yeah.
It was coming through, passed through his yard. Fog was been through some different time periods in his life,
Right.
and he always made it out alive.
Yeah.
And whenever people have
I
that
killed some
instinct,
crazy over in Vietnam too. There was a tiger there was a tiger coming into the village and taking people all the time. He took off for 5 days, and the villagers thought that the tiger killed him. He come back and then he laid it over the barrel of the tank, and there's pictures of its front shoulders are up over there, and his feet and tail still touching the ground.
Oh, wow.
yeah. Well, they were getting used to eating dead people that were in the jungles and stuff. And
From
Johnny,
all-
Johnny Cole. I don't know if you know Johnny.
I think
He
This
was
was
a
on
cop with
Facebook,
her,
but check that out. It's supposed to be a 15-year-old female.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, that kind of looks
That's
anatomically
crazy.
correct, but the
Yeah,
thing
but
that's
I mean,
different
the
about
mouth
that.
Is it close? Is that close to what you guys saw?
No,
or-
dude, its legs go backwards. This is like a person. This is like
Yeah.
those things that you see down, like they talk about them in the Carolinas,
Yeah.
where like they're like it stood up and it was like crack crack. You know, I'm like I've never seen one of those.
Yeah.
This thing
But the thing I seen was like
this.
muscular, dude.
Yeah,
Backwards like
had the
this.
backwards
I could
bent
see the.
legs
Oh
and-
yeah, dude. Oh, listen, I saw that. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
Listen, what you see what it look like on picture, my rod is looking at plywood. I think
Wow.
pretty much if it's looking into a camera and it's a bam, 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 it looks like that, and then rip the camera off the thing.
Right.
1, 2, whap.
I know that was crazy.
Took an oil
dude.
tank and flipped it over, and a bunch of other were in the yard. I heard it going on. Whenever it was going on, and I was like, "Yeah, come on in the house, motherfucker. I don't know what the you are, but I could feel that gut instinct of, I don't want to go out there and go face to face with you because
Right. Well.
it's gonna me up."
Yeah.
And listen, this thing's been growling at me, my mom, my brother, forever. We always thought I've never got to see the thing. They never got to see the thing.
Yeah.
Now they got to see it. My mom come up the other day and we're going to see some freaky pictures. Like, you will now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What color is it?
Listen,
Is
she
it
was
like
like-
black or brown?
being
Or?
in
Dude, it was like a blackish.
Like a dark brown, and it's like a black
It
bear.
wasn't shiny,
Yeah.
but it was like more towards a gray type black.
Okay.
Okay, you know what I mean? I would
Yeah.
say it's mature.
Yeah.
I could see the muscle definition in this.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
When I almost hit it, I'm coming into the driveway, like I'm like bam, 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 drinking a beer. It's after work.
Like it's hairy, but you can see through the hair.
Oh,
and see the
dude, I had my
muscle.
low beams
Yeah.
on. Listen, I come around that corner where you come up around, I come around them rocks on the left, I come down around, I'm coming to the right. Man, as soon as I crest around there, right there, the is right there. Like, dude, I see a leg in the middle of the road. I'm like, what the? It me so bad because it bit different. And listen, if I'd have been accelerating faster, I may have been able to take his legs out.
Yeah.
I'm glad I only seen what I seen.
Yeah.
The upper half of what I see in there looks like.
Dude, I think about it every time I
listen,
drive back here and every
there's been
time
a
I
couple
leave. I
people
think
now-
about
listen,
seeing
this
it on that
between
fucking
me,
road,
There's
man.
been a couple other people, they were like, my one buddy said, it was him and his old lady. They come up, same place I almost hit it at. They said it's on the left-hand side and it's standing there. And they're like, there's no standing there. Like, it gotta be 8, 9 foot tall. Oh, the brush standing there watching them. They're on a motorcycle. Okay, but it's like just cresting in the evening. Same thing, same time when I seen it. Just cresting in the evening. And he said, I saw, she pointed it out to him. She's on the back. He's like putting, put out the dirt driveway. She's like, what the is that? She's like, is that a bear? He looked, he's like, that wasn't a bear. He's like, that wasn't a bear. He's like, he accelerated going so fast. He said she was like, what the fuck? He's like, he said he would have rather crashed that bike into a rock and died than allow that thing to touch him. That's
I bet, dude. No doubt.
That's what he said.
It's crazy looking.
Now,
And
when you
she
saw
said-
it, Lise, were you on a quad or were you in a
I
car?
was in a van,
Okay.
and I was headed back to the pipeline.
Yeah.
But you know how, like, when you're coming into Will's driveway, how the road drops down over and you can go back on? It, like, come across right there.
Oh,
Up
okay.
into Will's.
I thought it was like right where the road splits. But
No, like,
Okay.
like if you were right in the end of Will's driveway, if you drop down over the hill and go to the pipeline instead of
Yeah.
it come up over. Like I was going to the pipeline.
From the Ferguson Creek area, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
before the pipeline.
Hey, I was
right into
just
the rock formation.
talking to,
Listen, I'm taking her through them crevices. Listen, you can get on your belly, go through a hole, it opens up into caverns.
That's
and
what
shit.
you told me. We're going to
Listen,
have to check
with
that out
springs
this
running through
spring.
them like
It's
this.
Take you through
beautiful.
there.
You walk out and it looks like a big open
But
field.
you know what I mean? Like now,
Wow.
like since I know like this thing's like a early springtime thing. I don't know if it like hybrid. Hopefully it goes away. It goes over to Clifford's Mountain or something. You know what I mean?
Dude,
See,
it's
like,
probably all
I think
through
I've
these
been
mountains
here for a
because
long
50 miles is nothing to these things. They can go some
I think
distance.
it's been around for a
I think this thing's been around for a long,
Oh,
long
yeah.
time. It's extremely smart. And listen,
I guarantee
I
it.
guess it supposedly from what I've gathered from different people, like a Native American woman about like they're feeding on your energy, which is your fear.
Yeah.
You have to have fear.
Yep.
So I'm on the league. I'm like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Get to the. I'm like, ain't no one likes double walk buck, but anyhow, let me get you that chicken.
All right, next up, we have my conversation with Lenny. Again, we have this fire being tiny witches, some synchronicities around Mary and the miraculous metal, and more. I'm going to go ahead and talk to Lenny. I'd like to welcome Lenny to Strange Familiars. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing well. You wrote me about stories that you had, and I'd love to talk about this stuff. As much as you're comfortable, can you tell us when and where this happened? You don't have to be too exact if you don't want to, but just give us a general idea.
So, some of the stories happened when I was little, and that was I was born in 72, so in the early mid 70s, and it was in Eastern Washington.
Okay. All right. So do you want to just move in chronological order from what you remember?
Sure, that sounds good. One of the first things I remember when I was little was we lived across the street from an empty lot, and it was kind of a big empty lot. It was like 3 or 4 blocks big, and there was like trees, and there was a really deep hole that was dug toward the back of it, and the people used it for dump, and like there was like refrigerators and stuff in there. It was pretty deep and I'm not sure why the hole was dug in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But at the front of the lot, there were some trees and some brush, and we lived right across the street from this. And one night in the middle of the night, there was a fire of some kind across the street. And my mom woke me up, and we went over, like the neighbors were all lined up along the street watching the firefighters fight this fire. And I think it was probably a pretty small fire because I don't remember seeing scars of it later playing in that field. And so I don't think it was that big of a deal. But, it's a small town in the 70s in the middle of the night, and it was kind of exciting, I guess.
Sure.
But I remember I was standing there next to my mom, and she was holding my hand, and I saw the firefighters they were like beating the fire down and with the fire hoses and stuff. And I saw this other figure off, like closer to me on the outskirts of what was going on. And he was made of fire. And it wasn't like a person on fire. It was like he was a man-shaped fire thing. It was It was odd. And I remember this very clearly. I remember it so clearly. And I remember what the firefighters look like with their coats and their helmets and stuff and with the hoses. And this was distinctly different from that. And I didn't say anything to my mom at that moment, but later on I asked her who that fireman was, and she thought I was talking about the firefighters. And I'm like, no, there was a man made a fire. And she's like, oh, I think you're thinking of the firefighters. And I asked her later on, like when I was older, and she remembered the fire. So I didn't imagine that, but I don't have an explanation for that at all. I don't know what was going on.
Did it look
Yeah.
roughly human-sized?
Yeah. It looked like, the size of my dad, around 6 feet tall. And he was, human thickness too. It wasn't like he was like super thin or anything like that or super huge. He was just a man-shaped fire.
Wow. Could you see any features, or was it just all flame?
All flame.
Interesting.
And it was really cool. It didn't freak me out at all. I thought it was so cool. I didn't feel any danger from it at all. And because I was asking my mom, because I wanted to see him again, and she was like, there was nothing there. I'm like, oh, yeah, there was. I saw it.
Did it move at all, or was it kind of just standing still?
No, he was walking. I think he was walking toward the activity, I think.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, and I think he was aware of me. He was only like 5 or 10 feet away from me. He wasn't that far away. And I think he was aware that we were there, but he didn't seem too concerned with us. Like he was just doing whatever he does.
Oh, that's so interesting, though. And no one else seemed to notice him.
Nope. I think I might have been the only kid that was watching that scene too. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, still, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. I like thinking back on that. It was a cool thing. It was so different from anything that I'd ever seen before.
And how old were you again at this time?
Oh, I think I was like 4 or 5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think my little brother was still in the crib back at the house. I think so.
Yeah, that's a neat one. I mean, who can say what it was, but it's very interesting. I say like a flame elemental or something.
Right, exactly. And then later on, when as an adult, I kind of bumped into the idea of the jinn and, thinking about how they're supposed to be made out of fire. And I don't think it was necessarily jinn or not. I don't know. But I was like, oh, it's interesting. The themes, though, that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the fun part of all this stuff to me, is connecting the dots across these different, teachings and folklore and from the world over and so forth. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I find that very interesting too, because there are themes like when in the Jungian idea of like some of the archetypes and stuff like that. And it's cool. It's a cool thing to kind of chew on.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it just speaks so much that this is, such a part of the human experience. The fact that in the Middle East, they're calling something jinn, which sort of answers to the same description, at least sometimes, that, the Fae does in the Celtic countries and et cetera, et cetera. All these different cultures have their names for these things that seem to be acting the same.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. And to think about how, like cats in different continents and stuff, they all have different aspects to them for their evolution in that climate and that environment. And so it's interesting to think about how these entities might have evolved so that, an entity in the Middle East might have different attributes and something in Native American lore just because they're in a different environment. That's fascinating to me too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's, culture is bound up into it. Environment is bound up into it. Certainly imagination and personal experience and all the things we bring to the table as well. It makes for such an interesting mix of things, I think. Tell me about these tiny witches.
Oh, yeah. This is another good story. I love this one. I think I was around the same age, and my room was a long, narrow room, and my bed and my dresser were parallel to each other, kind of near the door. And at night, I slept with the door open and the hall light on, so that the hall light was shining on my dresser that was across from me. And on my dresser had a mirror, and above the mirror, there was a ledge, and I had my seashell collection on this ledge. And I think that the dresser was like 4 feet long or something like that. And the ledge ran the length of it. And one night I don't remember waking up necessarily, but all of a sudden I'm awake and I'm looking at my seashell collection on this ledge, and there's all of these tiny little, what I thought of at the time, witches dancing along the ledge from the far end toward my head, along in the seashells. And then when they got to the end of the ledge, they would drop off and they would melt into a puddle on the floor, but then they would reappear at the other end again and dance along the ledge some more. And I watched this, and it was like, oh, this is so cool. I didn't get up or anything. I didn't try to interact with them. I just watched. And I guess I must have fallen asleep at some point. And when I woke up in the morning, I was like, wow, that's crazy. That must have been a dream, because the witches don't look like that, because witches are just people. What they look like were like the caricatures of witches, like these little old green women with scraggly hair, and they were all hunched over, and they were green too. It was like totally like a little cartoon. And I knew even then that witches didn't look like that. And so I'm like, oh, that must have been a dream. And I kind of like, okay, that was a trippy dream. Okay, that's good. And then, I started listening to your podcast, and some of the things that people have seen, I'm like, that's not that weird compared to some of the other things that have been on here.
No, it's really
not. No. And then one thing kind of bothered me about this experience was that when I wake up from a dream, I always know that it was a dream. Sometimes I think I'm awake inside of a dream, but then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I was definitely asleep. Like, I've never mistaken a dream for reality when I'm awake. And I don't think I was asleep. Like, there was nothing else weird. Normally there's something really bizarre about my environment or something that kind of clues me in that there's something, that was a dream. And it was just my normal bedroom on a normal night.
Right.
And all of these little witches. Yeah. So that was the part that I was like, maybe there's something to this. I don't know.
One of the things for me, and I don't know, I've mentioned this a couple of times on the podcast, and I don't know if this is the same for other people or not, but I've noticed one of the things that happens for me when I have these, quote unquote, big dreams, these kind of more meaningful or weirder dreams with symbolic meaning or whatever you want to call them, is I will wake up, in the dream, quote unquote, in my bed that I went to sleep in, or in the room I went to sleep in. And nothing's out of place. Everything's, it's not like dream logic where, the window's sideways and, there's a train going by and we don't live near train tracks. Nothing like that, It's perfectly normal. Everything. And then something odd will happen in it. So I wonder if that means something in this case, because it's like you said, it was your room, just your normal room.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think that there was something going on, and I could have been asleep, and it could have been like a big dream, maybe. Or not. Maybe there's some little entities attached to the seashells that were making their presence known or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when I say big dream, I should put dream in quotes there, because many of these, not all of them, but many of these, these experiences that I either don't wake up from, like you said, or It's very odd. It's not like other dreams. You know what I mean? They're very, I don't know. I think out of body experiences, maybe something like that. I don't know, but they're different. They're different from normal dreams in some way.
Yeah, I've had a few others like that, and I know what you're talking about, where you on this side of the dream, you're like, oh, yeah, there's something, there's an exclamation point on it or something.
Yeah, yeah. So how tall were these? I mean, if you had to guess, how tall were these tiny witches?
Oh, I think they were like 1 or 2 inches.
Oh,
They
very
were
tiny.
yeah, they were. Yeah, my seashells were not that big. And I never, I don't think it was a light playing tricks on me with the seashell shadows or anything like that. I think because I saw them moving and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really, I've been challenging myself on, what did I see? Is this real? And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I was making it up.
The other thing of note, when you said they come off and they kind of fall into that puddle or become the puddle, and then it's like they'd reappear where they were. They kind of like back to the start. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that reminds me, and we saw this both times we were in Indiana. One of the UFOs we saw did that, or maybe there was many of them, but it would start at one place, it would move a prescribed distance, the light would go out, and then it would reappear back at the starting place again, and it would repeat this pattern many, many times. I mean, the first time we were there, we must have watched it do it maybe 15 or 20 times. The second time we were there, it's probably less than that, but we saw it again, doing the same thing in the same place in the sky.
So how did you know that it was the same light that was reappearing at the beginning again?
Well, I don't know. It could have been multiple different lights, but it's, they all look the same. So it's almost like it reset, reappeared at the beginning and did it again. But it could have been a bunch of different ones that were just appearing and disappearing.
Okay. Because when I was looking at the witches, there was just some logic that told me that was what was happening,
Mm-hmm.
that it was the same witch. But now that you're bringing that up, it's like, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, who can say for real?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So you said you've seen some other mystery lights as well.
Yes. I was a teenager at this point, and I was walking home. It was during the summer, and I was going to take a shortcut through our alley, and there was a maple tree that was at the end of the yard on the corner. And as I was walking by the maple tree, I noticed that there were all of these little lights they were just tiny little pinpricks of light, and they were all flying around this tree. And it was like a happy thing. It seemed like they were kind of dancing in the leaves and stuff. It wasn't frantic or anything. It was just kind of, they were just doing their thing. And I watched it for a while, but then I was going to be late and I didn't want to get in trouble. So I left. And we don't have any fireflies or lightning bugs or anything like that in Washington State. And this would have been in the mid 80s. And so I was wondering if somebody had brought some fireflies from the South and let them free in the tree or something. That was my logic at the time.
Yeah.
But the more I've learned, I still haven't really seen any fireflies in person, so I don't know. But from what I've heard is that they're bigger than that, and they make noise, and you can kind of see their wings a little bit in the reflection from their glowing. And I was only a few feet away from the tree, and they were tiny pinpricks of light. There was nothing else going on.
Yeah, I don't know that unless they're right by your ear buzzing, you're not going to hear them, but they are bigger than a pinprick, and most of them have like a greenish tint or like a very yellow tint. They don't look like. Did these look like how would you describe these little lights?
They were like white, or like the bright yellow that's white, like on Christmas trees, that kind of light.
Right.
And yeah, and they were all the same color and they were all very bright and they were a warm color. I don't remember it being like a cold white or anything. They're kind of a warm white, I think, if that makes sense. And there must have been like at least 50 of them, maybe a lot more, because it just seemed like the whole tree was being swarmed by these little lights.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound like fireflies to me.
Okay.
And was this during the day you saw them?
No, it was at night.
Okay.
It was like right around sunset.
Yeah. Who can say? I mean, I guess there's a possibility, but being that small just doesn't sound like a firefly to me. And there's a certain glow to firefly lights, and they kind of pulse on and pulse out as they light up and light and dim rather. So yeah, like I said, it doesn't seem like they're fireflies.
Okay. Yeah, that was the only explanation that I could think of at the time. But even like shipping them up from, the east side of the United States, that just seemed, I don't know how successful that would have been. And it seems like if somebody had done that, they would have been sticking around to watch the show rather than, and there was nobody else out there. I was by myself.
Yeah. Was there anything special or interesting about that maple tree?
No, not that I remember. It was just neighborhood tree that I walked by a lot.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, who can say? But yeah, sounds like some of the weird lights we've seen for sure.
Yeah, and they didn't seem to they were oblivious to me, I guess. Like it didn't seem like they cared that I was there or not. Yeah, some of your stories with the lights, they were really fascinating with the interaction and yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's been rare. It's been very rare, but it is very interesting when it happens. So you said, saving this for last for me, you said you have a maybe encounter with Mary.
Yeah, this seems like, I don't know, this is an odd thing for me. I was raised Lutheran and I was raised in a household where, we prayed for the Catholics who are idolaters and we did not buy into the whole Mary thing at all. So I wasn't raised in that culture at all. But my family was pretty devout, going to church and stuff. When I was in my 30s, and Catholicism had always been very interesting to me. So I went through the RCIA classes, the So You Want to Be a Catholic classes. And during one of the classes, one of the women they brought out all of these Catholic medals and rosary beads and prayer cards and stuff that her grandma had. And there was one medal in particular, and it was a Miraculous Mary medal. And I saw that and it was like I got gut punched, kind of. Like I was just so captivated by that. And it was sort of like when you hear a song that's like the perfect song, like God is speaking to you, but you forgot about the song, but then you hear it again and you're like, oh my gosh, that is the song to heal my soul. That kind of feeling. That's what I felt when I saw this medal. And the other ones were cool and I like them. And I've never had that experience after with anything else. It was just this one medal in particular. So I was like, oh, I need to get a medal like this. And it's enameled metal and it's like in kind of pastel colors of, Mary with her hands down and the rays coming out of her hands. And I found one on eBay that I got and I was really excited about it. And I got it and I wore it and I was really happy and this was perfect. And then I had to go to the emergency room for something and I lost the medal in the emergency room and it was just gone. I was really bummed out about that. And just like a week later at the Catholic bookstore in our town, I found the same metal. And this is like I asked them about it, and they said that that metal had been like, there was one metal left at the back of one of their storage shelves that was stuck in the back of a box, and they just came across it and decided to put it out for sale. It was like something from, it looks like it's made in the 60s or something to me. I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I bought it, obviously, and I've kept it ever since. Yeah, I haven't lost that at all. But that's kind of a weird set of coincidences to bring me back to the metal, I think. It was just kind of odd. And then, yeah, and I keep thinking, this is the part that I'm confused about. I keep seeing this certain hallway in the church that I went to when I was little. When I see the metal, like I keep seeing this particular hallway, and I'm not sure why. I don't know. Nothing significant ever happened in that hallway. It was just a hallway that was near the classrooms for the Sunday school. And I didn't go to Sunday school that often. We went to church, but not Sunday schools. And I wasn't in that part of the building very often. But I keep seeing that hallway. And with the metal, I don't know. It seems kind of significant somehow. Like maybe I had some kind of experience or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's at least a very interesting synchronicity to having lost it, having had to seek one out first of all, in that style, and then having lost it, and then finding one in a short period of time after losing it that's at least a synchronicity, if nothing else.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that out of my learning about the saints and, and I hear Catholics talk about their devotion to Mary, and I am not there with it. Like I have some kind of I get it and it's awesome. I do feel a devotion to some other saints. And so I kind of know what that feels like. But I've been I don't know. I had a difficult relationship with my own mom. And so I'm wondering if I'm still working through stuff or whatever. And this is just part of the thing. And then
it may be. It's, I've often wondered. I speak of my dear, sainted, not actually sainted, but I say sainted maternal grandmother. And I wonder how much of that goes into, my own relationship with Mary, that being a good one, because I love my maternal grandmother so much.
Right. It's interesting how I don't know, my walk with the saints or whatever, it's interesting how, I don't know, how because the saint that I really am attached to and I feel an affinity for is Saint Jude.
Mm-hmm.
And it really feels like my relationship with him is so healing to me in a certain way. I don't know. I'm not saying this very well. I think it's interesting how we're so intertwined with them, or we can be, and it's for our healing. And so I'm choosing to work on the relationship with Mary. I'm just working on it. We'll see where it goes. I do the rosary every day. I try to talk to her a lot. Yeah, that's where I am.
Well, who am I to say? But I feel like she's pretty powerful, and if she wants to, have contact with you in some way, she'll make it known, whether it's by finding these medals or some other way. I don't know if I tried to ignore it, but I certainly wasn't focusing on Mary at certain points in my life, and she keep coming back and tap me on the shoulder, not actually, but symbolically, to the point where eventually I just okay, I'm all right. Okay. I hear you.
Oh, right. Right. It's okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I have one extra little story. I had these weird encounters with these older women for a while where I would be at the store Ash Wednesday a couple years ago, and I had this woman walk up to me out of nowhere at the store, and she started telling me what a good person I was and how I was going straight to heaven when I died, and that my soul was so good and pure. And I'm like, okay. And she seemed like she was a little, I don't know what was going on with her, but she was sweet. And she had her son with her, and her son looked like he might have been needing a little bit of extra help in his life.
Okay,
And
yeah.
she kept looking at him going, now he was a knucklehead, and he had to die 3 times and come back before he became a good person, and I'm a knucklehead, and I also had to. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. It was such a weird experience. I was gracious to her, and I'm like, okay, thank you very much. It's very nice. It's always good when somebody tells you that your soul is pure.
Certainly.
You know, I'll take it. And it was a couple weeks later, and I was downtown, and I I live in a medium-sized town now, and I was downtown, and I was paying for the parking, figuring out how to pay for it. And out of nowhere, this other older woman came up to me, and she was asking me where to buy laundry detergent, which, okay, that's okay. And so I was telling her the closest stores, and she seemed like she might have been homeless or maybe close to homeless. And so I was trying to tell her all the cheap places to get. And I was also telling her how she can use shampoo instead of laundry detergent for her clothes if she's washing them in the sink. You know, all the stuff you do when you need to do those things. And she had a really thick Eastern European accent, and we got done with talking about it, and then she wanted to read my palm, and she read it, and she wasn't wrong about it. She wasn't exactly right, but you know, it was kind of fun. I'm like, okay, thank you. And then I turned to go into the building I was going to go into, and I turned back around, and she's gone. And this was like a kind of a big parking lot, and there was a matter of seconds. And then it occurred to me, I had actually been praying to God. Now, this is going to sound really weird. I really want to meet a djinn really, really bad. Like, okay. And I've been praying for it. Like, I always figure instead of like conjuring something, I'm not into that. But I'm like, you know, if God can find a nice djinn who is willing to come and meet me, that would be awesome. And I'm wondering if that was some kind of weird experience, not necessarily a djinn, but something, because it seemed odd. Like, it's just an odd thing. I've never had a homeless person ask me about laundry detergent.
Yeah.
She didn't ask me for money. She didn't ask me for anything. She just wanted to know where to buy soap.
Oh, even after reading your poem, she didn't ask for anything.
Nope, nothing. Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just it was a happy experience. I never felt in danger or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any time anyone's, offered to read my poem like that, just out of nowhere.
Right. It was really odd. And, and I had just had that other experience with that woman a couple weeks before, or a week before, or whatever. And I'm like, I'm wondering if God is like, okay, here's some weird things. Here you go. And
yeah, I mean, maybe, maybe that's the way to do it. Usually I say, be careful what you wish for, but maybe, if you're asking in a good way, you're praying to God for this, maybe what you get won't be, anything dark or spooky or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how I approach all this stuff. I'm not really scared of that many things. Like, I think I have an okay vibe check when it comes to things. It's done me well so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't gotten possessed or anything. So it's gone okay. And I trust the vibe check. And if I get a bad vibe from an experience, then I back out immediately. And I'm always talking to God about this stuff because I think it's so cool. The high strangeness and the other, and I just love it. And so, God's a safe, obviously a safe place to go to, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Unpeople? Maybe. Who can say? The fact that she disappeared after reading your poem is super interesting to me.
Yeah, that was really, she might have just been a really super fast walker, but I really don't see how she could have done that.
Anything stand out about the way she was dressed or anything?
No, she looked like a homeless person. Like she just looked like an Eastern European one, with the sweater over sweater over sweater.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Was she wearing a hat?
I think she was.
Do you remember anything about that?
No, I think that it might have been like a stocking cap kind of thing. Okay. I think maybe. Why? What's about the hat?
No, I'm just trying. There was a way back, one of the most popular episodes we ever did. It was a witch or a Sasquatch, and these guys met this woman, and they said she had this Eastern European accent. And she seemed a little bit more intimidating than the person you met, but I think they said she had a red hat on, and it was definitely in the Northwest.
I think this one had like a pink hat. I think it was pink.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say it's just interesting to me, like, because I just remember that standing out so much to me because this woman came up to them and said, I'm trying to remember, it's in the bush or something, and she has a very a catchphrase basically that really kind of set them back, and then they went into the woods and had this very strange encounter after meeting her.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of remembering that episode.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I always try to see if we can make connections between these unpeople, whatever they are, whatever these entities are. But I might be really stretching there.
Yeah, well, my favorite of your episodes is the one with the two women who were having that dream with the guy that would come, like, you don't belong here or something.
Yeah.
And then they connected with each other. That kind of connection. Oh, that's awesome. That's my favorite, my favorite episodes by far.
Yeah, they were intense.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Lenny, thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you could let Allison know if she ever wanted to do a podcast about Echo and the Bunnyman, she would have a listener. So just
she's laughing in the background right now. You made her very happy.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
There is an Echo in the Bunnyman. There is an Echo in the Bunnyman podcast that she was on.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's called An Echo in Here. Is that? I don't know. Are they still doing episodes? They haven't been doing it. Yeah, they kind of did it during the pandemic and slowed down. But I think it's called Is There an Echo in Here? She's going to look it up for you. Hold on.
I'll look. Okay.
Yeah, Allison was a guest on that for an episode. Yeah, it's called Is There an Echo in Here? An Echo in the Bunnyman podcast. So
okay, I'm going to look for that. That's awesome.
And there is an episode with Allison. So.
Okay, excellent.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Yeah, if anything strange happens, you know where to reach us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, before we get to the curiosity of the week, Chad has his YouTube channel, Ruck Rabbit Outdoors, and he's been doing several kind of new series on there. One of them is Give Me Shelter, where he goes to these different shelters, like on the Appalachian Trail. Some he's done on the Mason-Dixon Trail. He's got one that's called A Walk in the Park, where he visits local parks and so forth. And I have some ideas that I pitched to him, so some other series we're going to be doing on there. So I wanted to mention Chad's YouTube channel. It's Ruck Rabbit Outdoors. If you look it up on YouTube, there's links in, I think, almost every episode. You can find links to Chad's YouTube channel. If you don't mind, go ahead and subscribe there. Even if you don't watch it, just subscribe anyway. Like, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and it will help Chad out.
It's just a kiss away.
Give me shelter. I was like, I had
You're singing the song. And
I had to run it through my head like, okay, what? So yeah, if you can go ahead and subscribe to Chad's channel, that would help him out a lot. And I've been in one or two of his videos already. I'm sure I'll pop up in more because I've been enjoying helping Chad make those. So Ruck Rabbit Outdoors YouTube. Go ahead and check that out. All right, the curiosity of the week. 7 steps to power.
How, do you have to complete all of them to get to the power?
This is
Is it like a how-to?
a study of customs, of beliefs, of traditions of people in various ages by Louis de Clermont. I don't know, maybe it's Louis de Clermont.
Did we do something about him? That name sounds familiar.
Name sounds very familiar. But this book was published in...
That's not like a flying machine guy, is it?
I don't know. This book was published in 1945 by Doreen Publishing Company from New York.
And this is an early edition. This is one of the...
I think this is the first printing. So you can find later printings. I think this is the first printing, I believe. At least it's an early printing. It's sort of a book of magic. Not illusion, but magic. So it's Mystic Secrets of Psychic Power, Secrets of the Power of Black Magic, Planetary Power, The Secret Power of Numbers, The Magic Power of Prophecy, Ancient Magical Beliefs in the Power of Stones, Jewels, and Gems, Ancient Magical Beliefs in the Power of Herbs, Roots, Flowers.
Oh, what's that picture?
Got some illustrations in it. An artist's conception of an ancient witch. I often collect these older sort of magical manuals and so forth, usually when they're powwow related. You can find newer editions, but I believe this is the oldest one we found. Let's put it that way. We did some searching. There may be earlier editions, but not to my knowledge. This is the oldest one we found. It's got a pretty cool cover, and this will be our curiosity of the week. I'll take a photo of this, put it in the show notes, and if you click on that, it'll send you to our Etsy shop where you can purchase that and other curiosities of the week, those that are left. While you're at Etsy, also check out my new book, I Have Never Minded the Loneliness, Hermits and Their Stories. We have plenty of copies in. If you get it from us on Etsy, it'll come signed, as will any of my other books that are up there. Beyond the Seventh Gate, my first book about Toad Road, Don't Look Behind You, the continuation and update of Beyond the Seventh Gate. We've got Bigfoot in Pennsylvania, historical Bigfoot stories, Bigfoot West Coast Wild Men, more from the West Coast. We've got The Witch Cloud, about the haunted bridges of Gettysburg, Where the Footprints End, Volume 1 and 2, High Strangeness and the Bigfoot Phenomena. Also have a little art book there called Elzic's Farewell. Kind of collects a lot of the little art I do for Strange Familiars and some wordless comics I made. Strange Familiars t-shirts are there, stickers, patches, and more. Allison has some ephemera up there, photos and other things. Got some of my music up there as well. The shop name is Lost Grave at Etsy, but if you type in Strange Familiars, you should see our stuff come up, and it'll take you to our store. There's a few clicks away that way. And thanks to everybody who supports us on Etsy. It's another way to support the show, and it helps a great deal. I've been making the rounds with I've Never Minded the Loneliness, various podcasts. You might hear me pop up. I will be doing a signing in Elizabethtown coming soon, Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. I will get the information for that as soon as we have it set, and make sure everybody knows about that in case anybody wants to show up. And hopefully I'll be doing some more book signings around the area as well. I'm open to it. If anybody wants me to do a book signing at their place, get in contact. Happy to do it. All right, we'll be back soon with more Strange Familiars. Strange Familiars is a production of
Us.
Us? Yes, that is the correct answer. Dark Holler Arts. Intro and background music is by
You.
me. Yeah, that's another correct answer. Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. Strange Familiars is on Instagram, where you can find us at
Strange Familiars.
At Strange Familiars, that's right. One word, no underscore. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/
Strange Familiars?
Yes.
I don't really need to see you on Facebook you're here a lot, so.
You can join the Strange Familiars gathering group there as well. For Strange Familiars merch, it's strangefamiliars.com/merch, and strangefamiliars.com is available to you 24/7.